Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to revisit the Super Mayor because there's a story that a bunch of you have sent me multiple different times, and at first I was going to ignore it because I thought, you know what, not that big of a deal compared to all the different various things that the Super Mayor has done, but honestly, upon further review, upon further examination, upon being sent this video, again, half a dozen times by you guys out there in the audience, and probably more times, but I blocked every one of you because how dare you send me a story? Obviously, I don't like contributions from the audience. I realized that there's beauty in the simplicity of this story because we've covered on this channel before that the Super Mayor actually went to what is called a Mayor Summit in Washington, D.C. She was actually able to meet the President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden, and maybe, just maybe, she would be the person to replace him at the Democratic National Convention because she is basically everything distilled about a Democrat that you absolutely would love to see in a candidate if you're an insane woke progressive Democrat and you're only looking for diversity points. But what's great about this particular story is that even though it's called the Mayor Summit, even though she went there because she is a black female mayor and she talked about how she was at the Mayor Summit, she billed the wrong taxpayers for it. She charged it to Dolton Township, where she's a township supervisor. It's not the Township Supervisor Summit, it's the Mayor Summit, but she could give so little crap about following rules and ethics that even something that technically is under the purview of her as the mayor, she couldn't actually deal with. She couldn't actually do right. She couldn't file the paperwork with the right place. That's how scammy this woman is. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And remind you that this show is available in podcast form. Link to those in the description of this video.
You might call our latest story, Mayor Henyer goes to Washington, but sends the bill to the wrong taxpayers.
So first of all, right off the top, I just want to say this because, you know, we've done a lot of local news segments, and Fox 32 Chicago, this man right here, one of my absolute favorites. You could tell that this man enjoys doing his job. First of all, he's thinking of puns, he's thinking of jokes. He's like, listen, you could call this Super Mayor Goes to Washington, a reference to Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but then he says, but she may have billed the wrong taxpayers. He's got a great news voice. We all appreciate it. He is a national treasure, and in reality, to be clear, the on-the-ground reporting from this guy into the Super Mayor is what made it a national story. Now, a lot of YouTubers, including myself, Nate the Lawyer, Hannibal is Hungry, and a bunch of other people deserve credit for making this popular online before the national mainstream media decided to look into it, but the fact of the matter is, on the ground, requesting the documents, interviewing the people, this guy's absolutely killing it, and he's got a sense of humor about it. Much love to him.
Hey guys, this is Super Mayor Taxpayers here, the people's mayor, and I am in the White House.
This is your Super Mayor right here. There's somebody who's doing a selfie video who's like, I am in the White House, like having this celebration, having a good time. And honestly, if not for the fact that she's robbing the taxpayers, committing crimes, is an absolutely shameless politician, a thief, an absolute scumbag in every possible way, crazy, and the fact that she tries to deflect things to issues like racism and all of that, I would enjoy this just for its comedic gold. I mean, again, this woman is beyond parody. This is what she's doing at the National Conference of Mayors right here, and she can't even figure out that maybe this is a mayoral expense, not a Dolton Township expense.
It's gonna just be dope. I'm just turning around so you can see. Got a group of people. Gonna go in some rooms and yeah. Oh my God.
And even a photo op with the president himself.
So, of course, she got to meet President Joe Biden. And again, one of the reasons why she was brought up, one of the reasons why Biden definitely wanted to take a picture with her is because she's a black woman that's in power.
Y'all black. Y'all are black. And y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman that's in power. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. All the stuff that y'all did to get people to come to our community, to just diss and down our community. Shame on y'all.
And Joe Biden recognizes this above all other things. Now, he may have called her Kamala Harris. He may have said, hey, don't talk about me hanging out with these segregation senators. And he may have gotten a little bit angry and then smelled her hair. But the fact of the matter is that photo is absolutely beautiful. And we got to give the super mayor credit where credit is due, because she is rising from the top. She decided that she was going to go from stealing from people's cars, because yes, she was arrested for breaking into people's vehicles in the city of Chicago, all the way to the mayor of Dolton, the Thornton Township supervisor, to stealing from the taxpayers. You just gotta respect that grift right there. And then she goes up to Mr. Biden and says, hey, if you put me on White House staff, I'll steal from you too. I'll steal from the federal American taxpayers, because I'm the super mayor. I'll be super secretary mayor of state if you were to appoint me that, Mr. Biden. And Biden said, yes, but how about I put you on the Supreme Court? And also, it's good to see you, Ketanji.
But there's a big problem with who paid for Henyard to be here.
These appropriations are misappropriations.
We showed credit card statements for the trip to veteran municipal lawyer Bert Odelson, who represents Dolton trustees opposed to Henyard.
Every time I say I can't believe that she would do something, here comes another.
So first of all, I'm heavily invested in the stories of all the characters in this particular segment. Now, if you'll remember this guy, he's somebody who investigated corruption in the state of Illinois, which is the most corrupt state in the union in terms of politicians prosecuted and jailed for corruption. And he said he's never seen anything like Tiffany Henyard in a previous video on this channel that we covered. Well, right here, he's like, as soon as something new comes out, I'm equally shocked, equally stunned, and this is a perfect example of this. Again, this is a summit of mayors. So this would be a legitimate expense, albeit an unnecessary one, for the village of Dolton, where she is the mayor, but she couldn't help herself. She charged it to the Thornton Township. And of course, it's around $9,000 in unjustified expenses, because that's what the super mayor does time and time again.
We found more than $9,000 in charges for the U.S. Conference Mayor's meeting, including conference fees, flights to Washington, D.C., hotel rooms that were all charged to a credit card belonging to Thornton Township.
I do want to say one thing. That's $718 in flights for the super mayor, at least as of right now, unless, of course, there are separate credit card statements from the village of Dolton. It doesn't appear that she flew first class, so I at least can give her credit for that, although I sincerely doubt this is the full extent of it. Secondly, and this actually has nothing to do with the super mayor, let's talk about the fees to attend this conference with this conference of mayors. She basically put up $5,000 and she ended up charging it to the taxpayers. And in my opinion, I don't think that this $5,000 should be billable to either taxpayers, because this is a vanity trip for her. She should pay this out of pocket. The idea that taxpayers should be on the hook for $5,000 for the mayor to travel for a trip to promote her is ridiculous. I don't think this is a business expense. I think this conference of mayors thing is just like a vanity thing for these different various groups of mayors. Maybe they network, maybe it's a way for them to meet donors or whatever. And honestly, I don't even feel like that should be justifiable on the taxpayer dime. Now, technically, she did meet with Biden. You could make an argument that meeting with the president of the United States has some validity for the village of Dolton. I don't believe that, but you could make the case for that. But $5,000 in fees for this organization of mayors, ridiculous. And honestly, any mayor that went to this, that charges to the taxpayers, should be held accountable and should pay that out of pocket.
There's no reason for anyone from a township to go to a mayor's conference. A mayor's conference is a mayor's conference for mayors.
So because this story is so stupid, we end up in a situation where we have a guy who, again, has investigated corruption in the state of Illinois for something like 40 years, but he has to explain this because it's so stupid, like he's explaining to an 8-year-old. He's like, listen, Thornton Township, different from village of Dolton. Board of Supervisors leader, Supervisor Henyard, Thornton Township, Mayor of Dolton in village of Dolton. You know, Bill, mayor expenses to Thornton Township. It's like the most obvious thing ever. Anybody could understand this except for maybe the super mayor, and yet she tried it, and yet she got away with this. And by the way, I just want to point out that a lot of times this ends up happening, like in the Vegas trip that we talked about, where she ended up billing that $3,700 first class ticket, and then she'll get caught. And one of the things she got caught for was that somebody was bringing their wife or their husband, also first class. And what ended up happening was, after getting caught, she shifts the tax burden over to the village of Dolton for those specific charges. So if the super mayor got caught on this early enough, she might have billed it to Dolton, because it appears a pattern in her corruption is to bill it to one municipality, the larger one, or the township actually, and then when that fails, when the auditor actually checks that, she then reroutes those bills to the village of Dolton. So they probably just didn't catch her in time right here, but yeah, this is something that she has a pattern of doing.
I have found, bills that were made out to the village of Dolton that were paid with the Thornton Township check. It's hard to decipher what is Township and what is Dolton because she blends them so carelessly.
Now, of course, this is where the story gets serious. You had somebody that was monitoring her. We've actually spoken about her a couple of times on this channel because Tiffany Henyard would lock out these nonpartisan positions that are supposed to go over the finances, but this woman was actually fired for challenging Henyard, and one of the things that she was challenging her on was the fact that she constantly blurred the lines between what is Thornton expenses and what is Village of Dolton expenses. And one of the most obvious ways that she does that is legitimately paying invoices for the Village of Dolton in order to cover the gap that she's running over there, in order to prevent that system from falling apart with the tax dollars from the Thornton Township. This is one of the reasons why, by the way, a lot of people voted down her referendum in order to raise money supposedly for the mentally ill, because when you looked at the details, the money was almost completely unaccountable, and maybe she was trying to use it to cover expenses from the corruption that she holds in the other position, because that system seems to be falling apart. But obviously this is fraud, obviously this is a crime, and obviously this story is so stupid on its face, it is worth covering.
Tonight at 9, we'll have much more on this investigation, including whether or not Henyard may have broken the law by billing the wrong taxpayers.
Now, to close this segment, they say that they're going to do a follow-up investigation where they try to decide if she broke the law for billing the wrong taxpayers, and I will point out that it's probably a matter of intent. She might be able to say, I'm too stupid to understand that the mayor's summit is for the mayors and would be billable to Dolton, not Thornton Township. So I don't know if this will result in a specific corruption charge or anything like that, but definitely her questionable billing practices as a pattern are something to be examined. And one of the things that this story brings to light, because it's so obviously inappropriate, is that she doesn't care. She's not double checking, she's not even single checking whether or not she's billing the appropriate taxpayers for the appropriate purchases, and this is a perfect example of that. Now, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the super mayor being caught in one of the most obvious scams ever. Till next time.